Folks, thank you so much for tuning into the Locked On Giants podcast. I wanted to take a moment before starting the show to send my love and prayers to Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin, who, as most know by now, collapsed during Monday night's Bengals-Bills game and was transported to the hospital where, according to a statement released Monday night by the NFL, he was in critical condition. At the time of Hamlin's collapse, I was in the middle of taping what I consider an upbeat Twitter Tuesday program. And it wasn't until after I finished recording that I learned what happened. I pray with every ounce of fiber that I have in my body that Hamlin, who's only 24 years old and who was living his dream, makes a complete recovery, for there are some things that are far more important than football, namely human life. Daniel Jones, the playoffs, what Coach Dable should do, and so much more on this edition of Twitter Tuesday coming your way next on the Locked On Giants podcast.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This episode of the Locked On Giants podcast is presented by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. Pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than their Prize Picks projection, you can win up to 10 times the amount of your money on your entry. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code Locked On. That's prizepicks.com, promo code Locked On. Hello, New York Giant fans. Welcome to another edition of the Locked On Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast family, your team every day. I'm Patricia Traina. It is Twitter Tuesday time, and we have a variety of questions. We have, we have about 18 questions tonight. So thanks to everybody who sent questions in via Twitter or via email. We're going to answer all of them on today's show. Topics include Daniel Jones. What else? Playoffs, of course. Kenny Golladay is a hot topic. So we've got a bunch of questions, great questions, and I'm really excited to answer these for you. So let's jump right in. Let's get right to it. First up, we hear from DJ at DG. I said DJ. I've got Daniel Jones on the mind after that great performance on Sunday. DJ asks, besides the rookie class, who has been the most valuable addition to the 2022 Giants? Great question, DJ. DG. I keep doing that. I'm so sorry. Most valuable addition besides the rookie class. I guess if you're talking about players, I think you could say Jihad Ward has been a valuable addition. Let's see, besides the rookie class, Jihad Ward for sure. I'm just trying to think. I'm going across. You could say Isaiah Hodgins has been a nice addition. But I would say if you really want to expand everything, I would say the coaching staff has been the best addition. I mean, this is a group. I mean, look at what they have been able to get out of this group of players. They've been able to get so much out of this group of players, and it's just been, if I had told you that they would have this group of players, especially at receiver and whatnot, and they would be in the playoffs, you probably would have said to me, nah, not with this group. But they have really found a way to optimize the talent. So if you really want the biggest addition to this Giants team, I would go with coaches. And like I said, for players, I would say maybe Jihad Ward. I would say, I'm really trying to think here. Offensive line, Ben Bredesen's a carryover. Yeah, and Matt Breida. Matt Breida would be another guy because I think Matt Breida is very underrated. I think Nick Vanette, the tight end, is very underrated. So those would be some of the players, if that's what your question was about, which players as opposed to overall in the organization. So thanks for your question. Next, we hear from Please Log Off, which I don't know what log off from what. I'm guessing social media or Twitter or whatever. He or she asks, the Giants have a good problem to have. Too many guys to re-sign. Aside from DJ and Barkley, we have multiple receivers, tight ends, offensive linemen, linebackers, and DBs that have earned a contract to come back after having a proven contract this year. Who do you think stays and walks? I'll be honest with you, I haven't gotten that far yet. I mean, off the top of my head, I think Julian Love has to be re-signed. Dexter Lawrence, they picked up his option year, but I would look to extend him. I would maybe look to bring back Jihad Ward. I wouldn't be upset if they brought back Matt Breida. Uh, and those are just some of the names off the top of my head. Again, I haven't really gone that far yet. You guys keep asking me about free agency and the draft. Guys, I'm having too much fun, getting ready for a playoff run here. So I haven't done any, a whole lot of work on that stuff, but I will. And if you want to ask me that question again down the line, I'll have a better response for you. But right now, those are just some of the names off the top of my head. But thanks for the question. James A. asks, did Golladay get any snaps against the Colts? Is he done for the season? And how has Bellinger performed since returning? James, Golladay got 7 snaps against the Colts. So I wouldn't say he's done for the season, but I don't know that he's going to get any more targets this year. I mean, it's pretty obvious that they want nothing to do with him. He's not a part of the game plan. He's mostly a decoy. It's look, the handwriting's on the wall. It's as plain as day as the signs behind me. If you're watching on YouTube, the signs behind me, that's how plain it is that Galladay's not in this team's long-term plans. Regarding Bellinger, he has been good when called upon. I don't know that the Giants have called upon the tight end as much in the passing game, but when they do call on him, he's stepped up. But certainly there's room to grow, no question. The fumble that he had, that was a real killjoy, if you will. But look, I think he's going to be a good player for this team, and I think they, look, he's a rookie. He has more development to do to go. So, all right, up next we hear from Philip. What do you think about Thibodeau's gesture on the sidelines against the Colts? And do you think the coaches will address that with him in conversations? Philip, okay. I don't begrudge a player for celebrating a big play. That being said, when that play involves potentially injuring somebody, to me, if it were me, first thing I would be concerned about is making sure that whoever I hit got up and was okay before I went into a celebration. I'm not a huge fan of hot dogging it, which I think arguably you could say that Kayvon Thibodeau did. I understand. Again, I played competitive sports as a kid. I would celebrate, I played softball mostly as a kid, and I would celebrate, great plays, home runs, whatever. But there's a level of sportsmanship, I think, that needs to be taken into consideration. And I don't know. To me, that I didn't like it. I mean, I'm probably going to get slammed for this, but I did not care for the whole display. My first concern, if I had been Thibodeau, would have been to make sure that Nick Foles was okay. I would have liked to have seen him go over, help him up, and he can't get up. Call for the trainers because the guy's injured. That's how I would have handled it. I think the coaches probably had a conversation with him about it. I don't know that for sure. I don't think that Kayvon Thibodeau meant any disrespect, because I don't think he's that type of person. I happen to think, very highly of him. But I wouldn't say that was one of his finest moments. I would have checked to make sure my opponent could get up and was okay. But that's me. I'm a lot older than Kayvon Thibodeau. So I might have a different perspective of how things work in the world than a 20-something-year-old might. So, I don't want to bash him, but that's how I feel about it. All right. Up next, we hear from Bobby. On a scale of 1 to 10, how badly would you love to go to see a Giants game with Bad Dog and Tana? Oh my goodness. Bobby, it's funny. I never thought of that, to be honest with you. I've been wanting actually to jump on their live broadcasts, and I just haven't been able to because, NFL rules for the media is a little different. We're not allowed to broadcast, do live broadcasting as the game is going on. It has to be on a delay, and there's also a matter of, there's a bunch of like little rules and stuff we have to follow. But yeah, if we were just going like this and I had a day off, which I don't get very, very often, I'd be curious to see what it would be like. I mean, I'm sure Bad Dog would be jumping off the walls. Tana would probably be jumping off the walls too. And believe it or not, I'm kind of mellow. That comes from what 30 plus years in the media, where you're reminded every week, several times a week, this is a working press box, no cheering. So, but yeah, I enjoy talking football with Bad Dog and Tana. I think those guys are awesome. And I look forward to the Locked On Giants live show, and I hope you guys like it too. If you haven't checked it out, you really got to swing by and check it out. We have an absolute blast. And we do over 2 hours every week, once a week. So, yeah, I think I think I would enjoy, seeing a game with those two. I think it would be interesting, to say the least. So, thanks so much for that question. That was actually a good one, a different one that I was not expecting, in this mailbag. Okay, let's see who is up next. We've got, I think this is Drew. Yeah, Drew K, who has 2 questions. What are the best Giant free agent waiver wire grabs since the start of the season? One for the offensive side of the ball, one for defense, and the overall best between the two. And who has the better tagline? Tana, Bad Dog, or you and why? Oh gosh, you guys are killing me with these questions. No, they're awesome. Best tagline goes to Tana. And I say that only because I've heard Tana's tagline. I'm embarrassed to admit it, but I haven't seen Dog show solo. So I don't know what his tagline is. I should probably check it out. It may be in the off season, I will check it out. But yeah, I got to get the nod to Tana. I don't really have a tagline. I've been trying to develop one, and I just don't have one. So maybe one day one will come to me. I keep asking my husband to help me with one, and he hasn't come up with one that I like. But anyway, to your football question, best offensive pickup. I think it's a toss up between Nick Van Ette, the tight end, who's a pretty good blocker, and maybe Matt Breida, who I think is an underrated running back for the Giants. On defense, I got to give the nod to Hottie, Jihad Ward, who has stepped in and just kind of been an under the radar type of player for the Giants. Landon Collins, I think, would be choice number 2, but Hottie's been there since the beginning, so I'm going to give him the nod there. And of the best ones, I'm going to go with Hottie only because of the injuries that they've had on defense, with Ojulari missing time, with Thibodeau missing time in the beginning of the year, with Leonard Williams in and out of the lineup. Hottie can do so much. So I'm going to go with Hottie in terms of value as the best free agent pickup that the Giants have had this year. But they've had a lot of good ones. It's so hard to pick just one, but that would be my pick. All right, we got plenty more here on the Locked On Giants podcast, Twitter Tuesday edition. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Hey, Giant fans, playing daily fantasy based on player projections has never been easier when you visit prizepicks.com. Pick 2 to 5 players, and if they go on to score more or less than their PrizePicks projection, you win up to 10 times your money on any entry. There's no competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections available. PrizePicks is currently operational in over 30 states and in Canada, and they offer projections on every sport. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less, and PrizePicks offers safe and fast withdrawals. Download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code Locked On. Don't forget to enter that promo code Locked On at sign up. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Locked On Giants podcast. I am Patricia Traina, your host. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day, or if watching on YouTube, your first watch of the day. And speaking of YouTube, in case you haven't been over there lately, I've started posting daily shorts, which are basically 1-minute updates on topics that I think are, the topic du jour, if you will. So if you haven't checked those out, please check them out. They're over on the YouTube channel, Locked On Giants. I think it's Locked On NY Giants, actually. Check it out. Let me know what you think. And, again, appreciate you listening, watching. If you haven't done so already and on YouTube, subscribe and like the channel. Click that little bell for notifications. So anytime I post a new video, whether it be a short or a full podcast, you will get a notification and you will be able to be amongst the first to watch it. And of course, comments are always welcome over on the YouTube channel. And for those of you who like to listen to me on our audio platforms, appreciate you as well. You have opportunities on, regardless of the audio platform you're listening to, you can subscribe. You can also give feedback on the podcast. So good or bad, look, it's the only way I'm going to get better. I don't sit here and just block out the bad stuff and just take the good. I like to get better, just like these players do. So please like and subscribe to the podcast. It is appreciated. And if you want to leave a 5-star review, that's definitely appreciated. So thank you so much again for listening to Locked On Giants. Let's get back to your questions here on this Twitter Tuesday. We'll hear from Mustafa William, I believe this is. The Giants have certainly made it farther than expected. How far do you think we can go in the playoffs? Do you think an improbable run is in the cards? This team doesn't have the same tools, but looks eerily similar to 2007. You know what? I'm going to say it depends. I think if you had said to me a few weeks ago, how far would the Giants go? I'd say one and done. I'm still leaning towards one and done. That being said, it depends on how the cards fall. And by that, I mean, if they draw the Vikings in the first round, I think they can beat the Vikings. If somehow they come up against Tampa Bay, I think they can beat Tampa Bay. I am not sure necessarily. Can they beat Dallas? I don't know. I don't think so. Could they beat Frisco? That's going to be a tough order. Same thing with Philly. But look, this is why you line up and you play the game, because you never know on any given Sunday. So I don't think this Giants team, as constructed right now, is a Super Bowl team. But I think it all depends on how the playoff order stacks. And, could they go more than one? Sure. I hope they do. It gives me some fun topics to talk about before I have to get into the off-season stuff. But, yeah, I think this team's probably at least another year away. They're well ahead of schedule in the rebuild, probably a year away, though, from really pushing deep into the playoffs. All right. Up next, NY Giants Rock, I believe this is. And the question is, with Evan Neal struggling as a pass blocker against speed rushers, is there any chance he gets moved inside next year? I suppose you never say never, but I think that's probably not in the cards. I think he's probably going to be left out there at tackle, and they're just going to have to work on, his shortcomings. Andrew Thomas had a bunch of shortcomings as a rookie, as we all remember, and he worked on them. And, how's that turning out? So I would say, and I know there was talk that, maybe Evan Neal would be better off as a guard, but I'm thinking he might be too tall to play in a phone booth like that. So my guess is they leave him at tackle and he just works on his shortcomings, which, he should anyway, regardless. So that would be my guess. All right, next question we hear from Ruben Martinez, and he says, excuse me, how would you compare the crowd at Sunday's game to the game against the Cowboys that clinched the division in early 2012? Ruben, if I'm being honest with you, I don't remember the crowd in 2012. That was so long ago. I really don't remember it. You got to remember, in the press box, technically the press box is supposed to be soundproof, so we can't really hear on most days the crowd. Now, if the crowd is really rambunctious, then it does come through the glass. You can also feel the vibration sometimes if it's really, really rambunctious, but I couldn't compare the two crowds because I just don't remember 2012, to be honest with you. So I'm sorry I don't have a better answer for you, but yeah, I just don't remember to make that comparison. All right, up next, we hear from Reggie Reg. How much is the franchise tag this offseason for a quarterback in regards to Daniel Jones? And also, how much of a cap hit would it be trading Golladay in comparison to releasing him? Okay, great question. The tag for a quarterback, the franchise non-exclusive tag, right? There's two franchise tags, by the way. There's exclusive and non-exclusive. Exclusive means hands off. I mean, absolutely nobody's touching them. Non-exclusive means that a team can still sign a guy, but it better be prepared to go up 2 first-round draft picks. So according to Over the Cap, the quarterback tag for non-exclusive is $31.497 million. All right. Now, to your question about Kenny Golladay, if it really depends on if it's a post-June 1st transaction or a pre-June 1st transaction. So if he is traded pre-June 1st, again, according to Over the Cap, the Giants would save $11.2 million, and they would be hit with a $10.2 million dead money hit. If it is a post-June 1st trade, the Giants save $18 million and get hit with $3.4 million in dead money this year, and 6.8, I believe, hits in 2024. If Kenny Golladay is cut, again, pre-June 1st, the savings would be $6.7 million with a $14.7 million dead hit. And if it is a post-June 1st cut, $13.5 million savings, $7.9 million dead money this year, and $6.8 million dead money in 2024. All right. So it really depends on the timing of the transaction. Kenny Golladay, by the way, in 2023, he has a March 19th roster bonus due, which is $4.5 million. So the Giants would have to basically terminate that contract before March 19th to avoid having that money hit their cap, since that's guaranteed. So that's something that obviously they're going to do if their intention is indeed to get out of that contract. All right, next question comes from Jeremy Davis. Is Daniel Bellinger the starting tight end next year? I would think so, Jeremy, but too soon to tell. I don't know. That's so far down the line. Will the Giants draft another tight end? Will they sign somebody? I mean, you'd like to think Daniel Bellinger is going to be the starter, but too soon to tell. Next year, we'll worry about next year when we get a little closer. But look, let's put it this way. I don't think Daniel Bellinger has done anything to not deserve to be a starter, but I think he's going to have to compete for the job just like everybody else. I don't think jobs are going to be handed out, with very few exceptions, that is. I don't think jobs are going to be handed out to guys. So thanks for the question. Let's see. John Fioriante, excuse me. This is more of a statement, but I think what epitomizes Dable is the fact that he didn't allow a contract to dictate what the team needed. He replaced Golladay with a practice squad receiver who stepped up That is why he is Coach of the Year. John, look, I absolutely love the job Dable has done, and I agree with you. Any coach who comes in and puts a player on scholarship, you really got to sit and wonder. You really got to sit and wonder about him. You know, Dable has always been from day one. You want to earn practice reps, show it in the classroom. You want to earn game reps, show it on the practice field. And it doesn't matter how you came into the league, how you came to the team, show it. Nobody is entitled to play. That's why when Kenny Golladay, weeks ago when he spoke to the media and said, I should be playing regardless, that comment to me was a turnoff. And if I found it to be a turnoff, because I believe in you earn your opportunities and you earn your keep. And the way you do that is through working. And I think Dable feels the same way. So if I found that to be a turnoff, I can just imagine what he must have thought when that got back to him. It was disappointing to say the least. And nobody's entitled to anything. That's how I feel, and apparently that's how Dable feels. So, all right, everybody, thank you for your questions. We're going to take one final break. When we come back, we have about 6 more questions to answer, so we'll get to those right after this. Hey, Giant fans, BetOnline is your number one source for football betting info this season. Find all of the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth articles and analysis on every game. And BetOnline doesn't stop with just football. It's your continued source for all your sports wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events, including NBA, NHL, MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the games start. Hey, Giant fans, thanks for making the Locked On Giants podcast your first listen every day. Don't forget to check out the Locked On NFL podcast, where you can get daily conversations on the biggest NFL stories, plus in-depth analysis on the biggest games with NFL key predictions every Friday. And Monday, local insiders cover the weekend with game-to-game episodes. Locked On NFL, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Welcome back, everybody, to Locked On Giants. I am Patricia Traina, your host. We're doing a Twitter Tuesday, answering your fantastic questions. As always, you guys never let me down when I call for questions. The questions are fun. They're thought-provoking. They send me doing research, and I appreciate it. So thank you for the questions. Just real quick before we get to this last group of questions, a couple things. First off, if you sent in a question and it didn't make the show, I probably got it after I recorded. So send it to me again. I always post a call for questions for the Giants Country mailbag. If I didn't answer your question here, send it to me on Twitter or email it to me, and I'll see if I can get it on into the Giants Country mailbag that I publish every Saturday morning. Second thing, on tomorrow's show, I have an interview for you. Tyler Dunn, who is the author / publisher of Go Long, which is a really wonderful long form storytelling NFL service, if you will. He is my special guest. Tyler wrote an article on how the Giants kind of came to the conclusion that Daniel Jones, that this could work with him. And he had a very interesting revelation on what Brian Dable did to kind of feel out Daniel Jones. And we talked about that. We talked about, what Tyler's hearing around the league, regarding Jones. Will the Giants be able to get him back? Will there be interest from other teams? So all kinds of stuff we discussed. Tyler is somebody that I've known for a long time, going back to my days at Bleacher Report. So I was really happy to have him on the program. And I really think you would like his work. He's a wonderful storyteller, especially long form storyteller. So if you like that sort of thing, you'll want to check him out. He's on golong.com. All right, let's get back to the rest of your questions. All right. Richard, I think this is Richard Hampton, who writes all the way from the UK. Wow. UK listener, love the show. Do you think the amount of cap we spend next year, how much we go for it, will be affected by A, reaching the playoffs, and B, how well we do? Do you think the success has accelerated Shane and Dable's idea of our window? Richard, I don't think that's going to have anything to do with it because, look, I think Joe Shane and Brian Dable know what the shortcomings are on this team. They know what they have to get to make, the offense better, to make the defense better, to make special teams better. So I think, look, next year's team's going to look a little bit different than this year's team. And I don't think that what they do this year is necessarily going to influence what they do next year. So yeah, I don't see it relating, because look, when you evaluate a football team, you're not only looking at the stuff on the field, you're looking also at the contracts. Who are you going to want to resign? Who are you going to let go? Who do you want to upgrade? And you got to remember this year, even though it's been a great year for the Giants, this year has been all about evaluating. Dable and Shane came in late January. They had to evaluate these players. Now they have a pretty good idea of who can do what and who can't, who doesn't fit, who does. So I think, they're just going to go into the offseason and they're going to start filling more holes. They're going to have a better salary cap situation. I don't think they're going to go hog wild crazy on signing free agents because that has proven time and again it doesn't work. And I think you're going to, really try and beat this team up via the draft, which is how it should be. So thanks for the question and greetings to you over in the UK. I know you guys have had some crazy weather lately, so I hope everybody's okay over there. All right, next up we hear from Bran8932. Where does Daniel Jones stack up to the other quarterbacks in the postseason? And what kind of deal do you see the Giants giving Jones? Jones, Barkley, Lawrence, Love, and Big Cat. Can they bring all of them back this season and build around Jones and Barkley in the offense? Jones, where does he stack up in terms of the other playoff quarterbacks? Haven't really done that comparison, but I would say, let's see, Kirk Cousins will be in the playoffs. He's been in the same system now for a couple of years. Jalen Hurts has been in the same system for a few years now, or a couple of years. Dak Prescott's a couple of years. So, I mean, the closest comparison might be the Frisco quarterback, Purdy, I would think, because I think Purdy, if I'm not mistaken, this is his first year. So, I haven't done a numbers comparison, a statistical comparison, but, if you're talking experience, this is Daniel Jones's first year in this system. So I think that would be your measuring stick if you were comparing quarterbacks. Now, as for what kind of deals I think they're going to get, again, I haven't gotten that far. I have dabbled a little bit with what I think Jones is going to get. And I know I've seen, there have been opinions online, lock him up for 5 years, 200 million with 100 million guaranteed. I don't think the Giants are going to do that. I think it makes more sense that you give him a 3-year deal, maybe about 75, 80 million with incentives. All right. And you say, you try and reason with him. You say, look, Daniel, year 2 in the system, we're going to get you better receivers. We're going to finally solidify the offensive line so you're not, bounced around like a ping pong ball or a pinball machine, rather. Come back and see, and grow in this system. I think it would behoove Daniel to do that. Now, that being said, I get it. Money doesn't talk, it screams, as somebody always used to tell me. But, sometimes the grass isn't greener on the other side. And it doesn't necessarily pay to go and take more money and have to, struggle. So I think it would behoove Daniel to come back. Look, give him a 3-year deal that they can easily get out of if they need to. If he outplays the deal, you tear it up and you give him a new deal. There's nothing stopping them from doing that. So all these people who were saying, "Oh, give Daniel a 5-year, $200 million deal," or whatever it is, you can tear up deals and give them new ones. You can do that. So if you're the Giants, you say, "Okay, year 1 was pretty much a success. Now let's build on that." Because who's to say that, something might happen next year? I mean, I don't think it will, but you never know. And I think that the Giants like what they have seen from Daniel Jones. I think he will be back. I would be surprised if they let him get away, but I don't know that I would lock him up for, 5 years and Josh Allen type of money or Patrick Mahomes type of money. I don't think he's there yet. And I'd be surprised if the Giants think he's there. But we'll see. All right, let's see. Next up is A-OK year 2011. At A-OK year 2011, do you think the Giants regret not getting a few pieces, wide receiver and linebacker, to make a good run for the ultimate? Seems this team is a few players away. Um, I don't know that I would say that they regret it. I mean, look, they had a very bad salary cap situation, and there was only so much they could do. They had, 11 draft picks, and they couldn't, devote them all to receiver and linebacker. And quite honestly, to be fair, when they did the draft, they thought that Kenny Golladay would step up. They thought they'd have Sterling Shepard, and they thought they would have Kadarius Toney. So they didn't know they were going to be in this position that they're in today. By the time the trade deadline rolled around again, the cap situation hamstrung them, and it has hamstrung them all year long. And there was just no way that Joe Shane was going to trade away assets, not when this team, as you pointed out, is several players away. So I don't think there's regrets. That being said, would they maybe have liked to have had, more linebackers and stuff? Sure. But remember also, Darian Beavers was going to be a big part of this defense until he ripped up his ACL. So you can't really sit there and say there's regrets when they had guys and for one reason or another, the guys didn't work out, whether it be injury, performance, or whatnot. So yeah, I don't think there's regrets, to be honest with you. So thank you for the question. All right, let's see. Gary Belalowski, I hope I said that right. Will the starters all be playing next week? Gary, Brian Dable has not made that decision yet, or so he says. Now, I've written about that over on Giants Country. I posted a short about that here on the YouTube channel. And here's what I think they should do and what I think they will do. I think if a guy is banged up, like a Leonard Williams who had a burner in last week's game, like Azeez Ojulari, who I think only played 7 snaps on defense on that bum ankle that he had suffered, the week prior. I would sit those guys. Anybody who is really banged up, I would sit. Otherwise, I would get my starters work. And the reason for that is twofold. Number one, I would want to see how they have improved against the Seagulls team in the last few weeks. So how do they look this time around as opposed to a few weeks back when they had their doors blown off? Right? Is there progress? All right. Remember, even though this is an outside chance of happening, there is still a chance that the Giants could see the Eagles in the playoffs if they get on a run, and if the cards fall or the seeding falls a specific way. So you can't rule that out. So I would want to use this as a litmus test. Now, here's the caveat, if you will. If the game is a blowout by halftime, by the third quarter, or whatever, then I pull my starters. Why leave them out there to fight a losing battle? This game the outcome of this game means nothing to the Giants. It's not going to improve their standing in the playoffs. They're going to be the 6th seed regardless. So if it's a blowout, then just like it was last week, the Giants knew they were going to win. They were blowing out the Colts. They pulled their starters. So I would take the same approach if I'm Brian Daboll. Daboll, hasn't coached scared really all year. I don't anticipate that starting now. I think he wants to win the game. He's going to do what he can to give this team the best chance to win. And if that means putting the starters in there, then so be it. Now, you're probably saying, well, what about the risk of injury? You know what? That could happen any game. We've seen it happen in preseason. We've seen it happen during the regular season. That's just the way it goes. And you can't play scared. You can't coach scared. And you got to be smart. Don't get me wrong. Like if Daniel is back there and he's getting beat up, getting sacked after sack after sack, then maybe you got to think about, do we maybe pull him? But if all things are equal and everything's going according to plan, no, I think you go with your starters and you just be smart. Pull them if the game is out of reach at some point. And chances are it might be. If Jalen Hurts plays, maybe. You never know. So that's how I feel about that. Thank you for the question. All right, I think we have one more here. Jonathan S. I think it's Jonathan Schmidt. What's up with Daniel Jones either not sliding or sliding really awkwardly when he does? The coaching staff has generally done a great job with him, and I would think sliding and running smart would be very coachable things. Okay, you would think so, right? But it's a comfort level thing, all right? And, look, I'm all in favor of Daniel Jones sliding. I wish he would slide properly. And I know he didn't work with a baseball coach because I'm the one that asked the question way back in the off season, and he said he hadn't. But I think he's making an effort to learn. Now, that being said, it's a comfort thing. And I'll give you kind of an example using myself here. I've written millions of words over my career, but I never learned how to properly type. I don't put my fingers correctly on the keyboard, but yet I have speed doing it my way. So if I took a typing test, I would fail it just on the basis of I don't put my fingers on the keys correctly. I'm still good at getting out what I need to, but my style points, I won't get any, but it's a comfort thing for me. So it's kind of a personal preference, and it's a matter of getting more comfortable with doing things the right way. But sometimes, you're going to revert in the heat of battle or at the heat of the moment, you're going to revert back to what you know. And, there's nothing wrong with that per se, but ideally, especially if Daniel Jones is going to continue to be deployed as a runner, you'd like to see him do a better job of protecting himself because he took way too many hits in the game against the Colts. And every time he takes off as a runner, whether it be a design run or on a scramble, I sit there and I literally cringe because I'm like, I have these visions of something happening. And if something happens to him, this team is cooked. So fingers crossed, nothing happens to Daniel. He's a tough dude. He's taken quite a number of hits, bounced up from them. But what concerns me is if he doesn't start to learn how to slide and better protect himself as he gets older, he might find that he's a little sore longer in the week than, just on a Monday or Tuesday. So hopefully he works with a baseball coach and learns how to properly slide. All right, everybody. That is all we have for this week's mailbag. Thank you so much again for the wonderful questions. I really do appreciate it. Appreciate you listening and tuning in to the Locked On Giants podcast. We will be back tomorrow with my interview with Tyler Dunn of Go Long, who talks about Daniel Jones and what Brian Daboll did to bring out the best in him, find out about him. Thursday will be the crossover show with Gino Camilleri of Locked On Eagles. So that should be a fun show. Gino's really good, even though he's on the other side. And then I'm not sure if it's going to be, I think it's going to be Thursday night for Locked On Giants Live. So I'll post a notice, obviously, in YouTube if you want to come by and join us. We have a great time, with the chat and everything. So come on by if you're not doing anything for Locked On Giants Live. All right, everybody. Thanks again. We will see you tomorrow. Have a good one.